Welcome everyone to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group. I'm the Advertising Marketing Manager, and I get to be your host today. We want to thank Contemporary Handweavers of Houston for hosting today and being the sponsor of this episode of Textiles and Tea. As always, we will have questions at the end. Please put your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. Keep those chats coming. We like to see those. Today, all the way from Puerto Rico, we have Gasali Adeyemo. He is he's from a small village in Nigeria. And at a very young age, he realized his artistic potential, and he would attend social gatherings, such as weddings and namings and burial ceremonies. And then he would do sketch portraits of the guests for a small donation. He discovered the Nike Center for Arts and Culture in 1990, where he remained for a total of 6 years. For the first 2 years, he studied batik painting on fabric, indigo dyeing, quilt making, embroidery, applique, and batik painting on rice paper. And then the following 4 years, the student became the teacher. Gasali's artwork was exhibited at Bayreuth, Germany, alongside the work of other 5 artists from Nigeria, which he feels like launched his career. In 1996, the opportunity arose for him to travel outside Nigeria to the US, and he went to the University of Iowa, and he did a series of exhibits and workshops. He has taught at the World Batik Conference, the Cross Cultural Collaborative, Snow Farm, and the Fiber Arts Center. He currently resides in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Welcome, Gasali. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let me give everybody a heads up because you're having to use your phone. So we're having a little delay, but we're going to get through this, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're going to start with the most important question, what is your favorite tea? You said you had a good answer for me.
I did. My favorite tea is the peppermint.
Peppermint.
Correct. I love peppermint. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you get started in fibers? We talked some with the introduction, but can you expand a little more on how did you get directed toward fibers rather than some other area?
Fiber, it's something when you're a young kid in my environment in Nigeria. You don't really pay attention, but at the same time, you pay a little attention. So in my home community in Nigeria, but what is really lift me up is when I joined the Nikkei Center for Art and Culture. You just read about in my bio. So that school give me more exposure to let me know, this is how things were so. So, and my father was a medicine man. So that get me going. That's why I always talking about why Indigo, if we include my lecture tonight in Puerto Rico, is called My Life in Indigo. So that is all related because indigo was a color of medicine in my culture. And people always asking me from the beginning, like, wow, how come only indigo? It's not only indigo color in Nigeria because the long history indigo have in my community and a lot of impact. So he bring a lot of things to be a woven together to relate to me, to be able to fall in love as a young kid with fiber. And because I look at indigo and fiber in my culture, they are brother and sister. They are relatives. Because to my knowledge, grew up in the 70s, it's all about trade. My mother, my great-grandparent, they are Adire. So we have a people that do Adire in the other neighbor. So we always help each other to get things done in the community. That is how I came across as a fiber artist at the beginning of my life. But Nikkei Center for Art and Culture in Nigeria, it gave me a lot of idea how to move from, like, batik is not what I grew up with, but Adire is my major, the tapioca.
You'll have to talk some more about that later too. Now you've talked some about how Indigo is a way to, you talked about how it shows where you're from, and it's also a way to pass on information. So are the patterns that you use in that, the sheet behind you is a great example of it. Are they identifiable to like a certain area? Do they have certain meanings?
Yeah, they do. Every design is a symbol, it's a message. And that is one of the things he make me so into when I go to study more at the Nikkei Center for Art and Culture. The fiber, the design, is not our improvise. It's not my idea. It's not something I just thinking. It's being around because it's mostly when I teach in class, I always tell my students, this is all design you see on my fabric when I wear it, when we dress up in Nigeria. It's related to the life we're living in. What is been happening in the century to keep the tradition so it doesn't vanish, it doesn't go away. That is the major. And then he tell the young generation like me, when I grow up as a young kid, to have idea what kind of life we've been practice, even include a religion in my community. So fiber, when I look at it to my knowledge as a young kid till now, I see it like it's very deeper than what people thought, because Yorùbá sọ wípé ìrìn àrìn òun là á kóni. I like to say it in Yoruba language. People say the way you present yourself is the way people recognize you. Fiber is one of them. And the major thing make me so in love to the traditional fiber in my culture. He identify who I am. When I came to United States, I don't know you have to carry identification. So until when I get here, but in Nigeria, we have only three groups. I'm from Southwest, Yoruba. And then we have people from the East, Igbo, and Hausa. Fiber is one of those things who make recognize what tribe and then what group you belong to in my culture. And Indigo is one of them. That is why people travel to Nigeria. You see Indigo in the Southwest. Then people travel to North during the, I believe in before the independence in 1960, before I was born. There is a group of people go from all over the world. I forgot their name. They visit my country. They've been to northern part of Nigeria. They saw the indigo there as well.
Well, I love the image and these diagrams because we have the diagram and then we also have the image where it's actually made into indigo. That's nice.
You can see the gecko.
Yeah.
Gecko is what they call it in Puerto Rico. That's what people are staying with. It's everywhere in the house, the gecko. So all those symbols, the one in the far right in the middle, it have a little white and black. That one is called talking drum. The design. People say, oh, talking drum, because in the history, there's no telephone, there's no testing, there's no email. We use a talking drum. I have a friend I live with in Santa Fe. His name is Akim Ayaniyi. He grew up in the 9th generation. So when his father want to call it attention, he had to pick up his drum, the talking drum, and then squeeze it and say, Akim, Akim, where are you? He say it in my language. The next thing you see, Akim was running across the street. He said, my father was calling my attention. So all those tools, as I said, we use in the environment is what we place as a design, the life we live in, and what we practice in the environment. You can see the one in the bottom, which is tie-dye in the far right also. That one also, we call it cowrie shell. Cowrie shell is we call it owo eyo. because Oweyo is one of the things we use as a divine to read our destination, where we need to go in the future. When you go to Medicine in Nigeria, they throw the cowrie shell on the floor if you want to ask a question about your life. So that is how the design transformed to the fiber as well. And so on and so on. And the one way right there on top with a little arrow in the middle, that one, everybody sees clearly is like a spiral. That one, we call it record. Record is a turntable people play as a music. We place it in the fiber. Also, we call it mosquito coil. And the one far right on top, if I see the design very well, it's a lot of line. That one, we call it mirror, means dingy, dingy in my own language in Yoruba, but we call it mirror, like a mirror you put in your bathroom, in your living room, everywhere in the house. So you can see how things puzzle together. And the one in the middle right here, under the gecko, that one we call it matches. Because in the century, there is no matches to make a light. Back in the day, they used a two rock to spark each other to create the fire. And also we call it cube. Cube came, anybody familiar the sugar they put in the box, they look like little small cube. That is how the design was formed, came across in the century in my own culture. So many designs. The one I don't see right now in front of your camera, I believe that one is called barbed wire. Barbed wire like a net. So a lot of things, as I said, we use. The design is not my idea. It's a way of preserve tradition and the life we've been living in to keep the traditional for generation to come after the generation. And yeah, that is what the design, most of them represent in my culture.
Well, you've talked some about the different techniques that you use, like batik, adire, stitching, and tie-dye. How do you choose which technique to use for a piece of artwork? And do you prefer one over the other?
You know, I run to that question many times. People always say, which one you like most? You see, when I begin my talk today, I talk about Adire. What make me amazing all the time when I teach or when I give a talk, people say, oh, they look like shibori. Of course, they look like shibori. That is why I love the question you asked me before this. That is why I told people we call it a Yoruba name. Even the one in the far left with the big circle is called Moon and Stars.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the tie-dye, Adire, Oneko. That is what I'm going to begin here in Puerto Rico tomorrow. Tie-dye with the grass. You can use the string. But when I teach in a lot of places, I always tell my students, tie-dye need a little muscle. The more you tie it, when you put it in the dye vat, dye is very strong. They want to find a way to get to your design. But that's why you can see the shade blue very well, because it was very tightening very well. And people always asking me, what kind of fabric do you use? I always recommend 100% cotton fabric to be able to take the dye very well. But I love them all. Tie-dye, batik. Even I name batik as my therapy. I use batik myself to use as a meditation. You can see the sponge you just saw right now in the bottom. That is, I call it the cheap way of making batik. It's a sponge I make like a pen. I have the same thing right here in front of me. Anybody can see it on the camera. The same sponge, I trim with the scissors, and that's what I dip in the wax. This is very addictive. I told my student, when you start this, either you have your lunch next to your table, you might even forget to have a lunch because you just carry away on your meditation. And another thing I like to add it to with the talk, when I sit in my studio with my son, he always asks me like, Baba, which is mean father, why you always smiling by yourself? I say, he always asks me, are you okay? I say, I'm okay. Because while I was doing batik, I'm not in my studio. My mind was traveling around. Because when you place your wax on your fiber, you don't really know design you're coming for. It just kind of come flow as you go from there. That is why I call it batik is my therapy, it's my meditation.
I love that. I thought that was a piece of wax. That makes more sense. That
Oh,
it's
it's
a
a sponge.
sponge. Ah, I get it.
Okay, you soak it to the, you can see I was creating the spiral, the little
Mhm.
circle right there on the silk. So that is the soaking of wax. And then when you stay in the fiber for like 5 to 10 seconds, you have to dip it back to the fry pan again, and then come back again, and then create your beautiful shade you want to do. And that one, we call it Adire alla bella, which is called wax resist in my culture. Mm.
Well, just I don't want to get into a lot of how-to detail, but I had to ask you this earlier because I didn't understand. Briefly, what is the difference between Adire and Batik? Can you talk just briefly about that?
Oh, Adire, when I narrate it with everybody, I call it the code processing, and batik is a hot processing. The one I was right here, you see the design behind me?
Mhm.
That's Adire. When you flip it, the whole back was a blue shade.
Oh,
So the design, it doesn't go through the back. It only resists the top. That is Adire. The design stay on top because it's cassava, tapioca. I paint. I was showing to you earlier before we start. This is the same method, hand painted. I use a chicken feather as a design inside the box. And the long line, I use a broom straw. Anywhere you see a little dot, which is I might not have it right here, a little small dot, there's a small knife, make a polka dot. So every design created by different tools. That is why when they dry, when I dye it, you have a shade blue plain in the back, but when you flip it, the design was come up in the front. So that is the difference between, because batik did go to both sides because it was a
oh,
hot wax. Does that make sense? That is why you
yeah,
see
yeah.
design in both sides, but Adire, it only resists the top. It doesn't go to both sides.
That I read one where you were talking about how with the Adire, it's cassava, right? Am I saying that right?
Correct. It's
Uh,
tapioca, cassava.
Tapioca, right? You were talking about how, again, it's part of the life circle because those are also foods you eat, right? They're very common foods that
Correct.
you eat. So not only is it nourishing the body, you use it for, and I love that idea that it's all part of that life circle.
You mean the cassava we use?
Yeah. No?
Because cassava, myself today, it saved my life as a food. A
Oh,
lot of people, they know something called fufu. Fufu is like a mashed potato. In Nigeria, we make cassava from everything. We make bread from cassava. We, I mean, you have to go for 3 years before we can get the tuber. It's a long process to plant them. So that is why it's so much tradition, because in Japan, they use a rice paste. But when my grandparents, the food we eat, and then we paint as a resist. People say, what do you do with it after you make it with a paste? I have to cook it with the lemon, just fruit lemon. You squeeze it in the water, but you just have to cook it at least with slow heat with 40 or 45 minutes. When it cooked very well, you paint it on it, it came out super. So that is what makes me with my grandparents. If I asked the same question when I was a young kid, that do you think if I dye this, it's not gonna come out through the bag? Then I did it. My student is always shocked. They kind of little panic. Is this is gonna come out? I say, wait, just let us dye it first. And then when they see it, after we remove the paste in the cold water, you see them glow out of the indigo with the shade blue on top of the darker blue. I call it is a magica, like miracle, because they resist. But the only what I tell a lot of people who study with me, just make sure your paste cook very well when you apply it. That is what you need to do. Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
Somebody just commented that you are definitely a teacher. You're very passionate about teaching, and you do it so well. You're very pragmatic and systematic. So you teach this beautiful art form, but what else are people getting from you in class? I think it's more than just about making pretty batik, which is gorgeous, and I would kill to do it. But what else are you teaching?
You know, I love that question. That's why people go to my website. They see me with a lot of students in school, because it's not about only the beautiful design here. I teach about my livelihood in my culture. Like why do we wear this piece? What is for? What is message behind it? What is kind of representing my culture? And why is so important? And that is why I said one language in Yoruba earlier, like Yoruba so we pay Iriarin, Ola Kuni. The only thing people can identify on you, if you are a doctor, or if you are a mechanic, or any job you do as an office job, the only thing they can be recognize you so fast. When somebody was a doctor, he walk out in the office, he go to the parking lot, he wear the doctor uniform. That is how we see this in our own culture. That is why to everybody watching today, if I travel anywhere globally, sometimes when I sit at the airport, people approach me like, welcome. How's everybody in Nigeria? I'm not shocked because the person who saw me, I'm sure he or she been to Nigeria. He know or she know like, oh, he's a Yoruba man. So only that one, he give me a lot of privilege, like a lot of happiness. Like people can identify me with my fiber. So that is mostly when I teach, I cannot talk about the history. What is relate? Why cloth is a healing? Why the fabric is what we have to use in this certain moment of life. That is my passion. That is what I like to break through. That is why the book I saw is called Deeper Than Blue, which means indigo. Indigo is not ordinary dye. I try to set that record straight any place I give a talk. Indigo is a color of love. It's a color of medicine. It's a color of everything in my culture. People say, oh, Gasali, I love your outfit. I love your indigo. But in my mind, it's deeper than blue when I look at it all the time. So that gives me a lot of how this is so important in my culture. And when I teach, I go to a lot of, which is I'm not going to be able to talk about so much today in the screen. I go to a lot of story in between why somebody goes somewhere, why this design. I have a design here. You can see I put a lot of design in between one piece of bandana right here.
Mm-hmm.
You can see like a little cowrie shell, little polka dot and big moon. So in a little moon right here, the little small right here, little tiny dot, that one is called pigeon. Pigeon eyes. Ojú ẹyẹlé. Yorùbá sọ wípé ẹyẹlé kì í bónílé jẹ, ó bónílé mu kó jọjọ́ ìkànnì kó yẹrí. Pigeon is a loving bird. But when I came to United States, nobody loved pigeon. They said they're very bad. They rip your roof. But in my culture, pigeon is a savior in our own tribe. So which I always tell the student in the class all the time, why pigeon was a loving bird in your culture. So that's what I teach in between my fiber. That's what I let people recognize, like the design you see on the fiber, it's not our improvised. It was a story before me. I came to this universe. So it's been going on. That is why we continue the tradition. And I will love to pass it to my children who's coming after me. So that is my goal.
You have had some major events in your life that, and I don't know all about your life, but from what I've read, they were events that really changed the direction of your life, that you have met people and taken you off into a new direction. Can you talk some about that? I didn't read all of it during your bio, but there's some great stories about that.
Oh my God. I think we talked about that when we do the little rehearsal last time when I was at the snow farm. The snow farm, I was talking to you in Northampton. That is, I was in the place in Boston called Mass Art College. There is a program is called World Batik Conference. That was 1990. It was 1997 or 1996.
I think it was 96.
I went 96. I was there. That is how everything started to grow from that conference. And then he doesn't stop there until when, people watching today, there's a big market in Santa Fe. It's called Focat Market in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. That one, it took everything from there. People I met who came to my booth, who saw my indigo plant, who saw what I was working on as a demo in the booth. They have my business card. I mean, they want me to come and they see on my website, like, wow, so you teach a class? Oh, we love to have you with our guild, with our group, And I, from there, I mean, I would say that is a breakthrough for me to be able to, and also I don't normally travel all the time to teach everywhere. And I teach in environment in Santa Fe, include like Fiber Arts Center in Espanola, Albuquerque. Then I work with a young kid in school during the school semester. I go to different school in Santa Fe to work with the young generation as well. But people say, oh, do you teach Adire with the student? I say, I will do only tie-dye and only batik for students in school.
Yeah, I saw the some of the images from the international festival, and it was amazing, just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
The one thing I think is so funny is that in where you're from, indigo just grows. And speaking for someone who has absolutely killed indigo every time I try to grow it, people here getting to do indigo is kind of a treat. That somebody has an indigo vat, we all come running because we want to try to do indigo. And it's so common where you're from. Did you see the difference when you came to the United States about how excited people got about indigo?
Oh yeah, big time. Because that is why I set my record straight. Even when I was in Kolkata before the pandemic, which is called Indigo Sutra, like over almost 3-4 years ago, people come from India, from all over the globe. The question people keep asking me, like, oh, how big your indigo farm, Gasali? I say, I don't have any indigo farm. They say, oh, so how do you get your indigo? Even I bring some to the screen, everybody can see. This is the ball. People familiar to my workshop, they see it all the time in my table when I teach. So this what you see right here, you can buy it in the open market in Nigeria. People say, why do they sell it in the open market? When I go home, sometimes I don't have it too much time to collect my plants. The people sell them in the market. They say, oh, how many people sick? Why do you need so much? I said, nobody's sick. I'm just gonna travel out to use them in United States. But intentional, you can go get your own indigo in the farm where it's grow wide. People buy it in the market, they are medicine man, they are healer, they are midwife. So when I buy so much, they keep questioning me like, wow, how many people you taking care of? Because they use as a medicine. So I don't have any indigo farm. But when I came to United States, I see how people trying to grow the Japanese one. And even right now, sitting here in Puerto Rico, the sister who invite me, Gladys, I sent the seed of my indigo to her almost 2 years ago. She took me to the backyard here. They already grow fresh indigo from Nigeria. And I took it. She was watching me. She said, Gasali, how do you get your hand blue from this plant? She doesn't know. And I took the young one in the top and I keep rubbing it in my finger like that. In 2 seconds, he said, oh my God, I'm glad you came. I didn't have no idea. So now she's trying to transplant them on the ground now. So they grow very well in Puerto Rico because it's very humid and very tropical here. So it doesn't like snow or cold weather. That is why in Santa Fe, I try the best I can because of the dry heat and it's very high elevation.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
could not be able to grow it. So I've been shipping to a lot of people who want to be interested to try them. Maybe like Florida or anywhere it doesn't snow. So yeah.
Yeah, I tried. I killed it. I think I should just stick to the
Oh,
balls. I think that makes more sense.
you know, I don't know how she does it. I mean, she still have some seed, but everything she grow like almost 6 or 10 plants. I was full of joy when I got here yesterday. Like, oh my goodness, this is real Yoruba indigo in Puerto Rico, fresh one, not the dry one. You can see right here, I travel all around before I came here and I ship it to her. And you can see, people say, how big, how size the size of the leaves. This is the big they can get.
Really?
Leaf, yeah. But when you see the one in India or the Japanese one, they look like very small.
They
This
are,
is
yeah. Yeah.
how wide the leaf can be when they grow. And the same thing right here in the backyard here, the same leaf is this big
Huh.
from indigo we use in Nigeria.
Well, we have another photo that I absolutely love. And it's from a workshop that you did in Santa Fe. It was called Sojourn Santa Fe. And you were talking
Yeah,
about how indigo is peace, love, and unity. So you've
yeah.
talked some about this through the program today, but what is it that gets people so excited and brings them together at a, like even at a workshop about indigo?
Um, you know, indigo, I don't like to use the English. I call it magical dye.
It is, it
That
is.
is that that is why I call it the color of love. People say, "Oh, I thought it was red. I thought it was pink. I thought," but indigo have something like the more you close to indigo,
Uh-huh.
the more you find out how it's deeper than blue it was. Because when you look at the history, the way indigo starts to this time around, he give you a lot of things to be able to love the indigo, to be able to close to the blue dye. Because the joy. And then when you dye with indigo, I always tell people when we do the dyeing, the fermentation, when they're ready to use, people say, what I just love, when it look like greenish, before you oxidize, people say, oh, okay, if I don't want to be oxidized, what do I do? I said, there's nothing you can do. You just have to oxidize. So how long you stay in the dye vat? It doesn't make any sense. If you leave it there for 2, 3, or 4 hours, you have to take it out. So that in between dipping them and lay them on the grass or on the plain field, if you're staring at them, you kind of see what's glowing slowly, slowly. That is why I call it chameleon, the
Oh,
one we have
chameleon.
in
Yeah.
the, you see how they take color from people's, everybody walk by? The same thing with indigo. He just changed like that. People say, you can see a lot of joy on people's face, like, oh my God, it's changing. It's already turned to blue. That is what indigo does. He came out greenish, like in 5, 10 seconds, or maybe like in a minute or 2 minutes. Then the shape blue, they start to rise to come up like that. So that thing only I can see. And for myself, people I run to, people say, you know what? I don't want to wash your fabric. I just love the smell. So all those things. And then I told people when you wear indigo, indigo and the mosquito, they are not friends. If you live around where a lot of mosquito, you wear indigo, they stay away from you very easily. When they smell, they die. They don't stay around of you. They die.
Well, one thing about this picture, I got it from a blog from a woman
Mm,
who was part of this program. And she talked about
yeah.
how afterwards they all painted their fingernails with clear polish to keep the
Mhm.
indigo color. I thought that was a
Oh.
great idea. I thought that was wonderful. So
Mhm.
what does your family think about you traveling the world? And because you are a busy, busy man.
Yeah, my traveling is based on only the summer. So most of the winter for 6 months, people been to my studio. I always work to get this ready. So I do the dyeing around the spring before the summer begin. But people might see me on the road all the time. Sometimes I go once a month, but this month, I mean, it's it's back to back. It's just like that. But sometimes I just go only one in a month. Sometimes I don't even travel at all. I will just down in Mexico, do my work. It depends how the program they want me to come and do, how is overlap each other. That's why when I talk to you in Snow Farm, I get in on Saturday, I pack my bag on Sunday, I flew down to Puerto Rico. So when I get home, if God willing, I'm trying to exit back to Nigeria for the month of September for 1 month.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
What do they think about you traveling and teaching like this? What does your family think?
My family is, you mean family in Nigeria or here? Like
Nigeria,
my,
Nigeria.
oh, Nigeria, okay. Because my family here, my wife, my children, it's hard on them.
I
They
bet.
wish I stay home all the time. But my family in Nigeria, you know, I I use myself as a role model because people see me, the network is very big right now, Instagram, Facebook, or they see me like, wow, he is everywhere. But I think for myself, what I told them, he doesn't grow overnight. The question they ask me when I go all over the globe, you know, they say, oh, wow, how do you build this network? I told them, well, it happened because it's not like something happened like 10 years, 15 years or something. It's like it's going over 30 years right now. I stick with it. And my passion, I love to teach. I look myself, I like to tell the story about my work and, and the history behind my technique. That is my passion, to be able to talk to people why we should stick with our fiber. Either you are knitting or you do the quilting or you do any kind of fiber. It's just, I during the pandemic, 2 years of COVID, I was in Santa Fe People say, what are you doing when you're there? You didn't go anywhere. Guess what? When I wake up in the morning, I just walk to my studio. You know what I did? I keep open my fabric. It's like my flower. So when I open them up, people say, what do you do? I just fold them back up. I just want to look the beauty and fold it. Open another one and fold it. So that doing that, he put a lot of joy to my life, because when I look the piece, somebody asked me a question. Wow, do you ever make a piece you don't want people to see? I said, oh no, I did. People see it, but I don't want to sell it. I keep it as a part of my collection. You see, because I love the piece so much, I said this piece is gonna stay right here. I'm gonna donate it either museum, but I'm gonna keep them for my children to come. So that is what I've been dreaming for. I have so many pieces like that. It doesn't hang out in my studio. It will stay in my box inside the house. Because when people see it, it's very hard for me when they want to buy it to say no, I don't sell it. That is why I keep it away from the studio, because I keep it. It's a one a kind. It's like what I was doing the same thing, but when I see the way it came out, I said this is gonna stay with Gasali. It doesn't go anywhere. So that is the love of fiber to myself. Like, wow, I need this piece for myself. This is me.
Good for you.
So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We've got some questions. Shall we ask some questions from the audience?
Oh, please go ahead.
Somebody was asking, how do you access the recording? They're all on Facebook, and we'll talk about some of that later, Kevin. And Karen LeBlanc says, I love the idea of the symbolism in your work. Can you talk some more about the health side and the art side?
About what?
Health side of the work and the art side of it. The health side.
Oh, the health.
Health.
Oh, like what I use? What I use?
Because you use the indigo for medicine, right?
Oh, for medicine, yeah, we do. Indigo. Indigo cure a lot of disease back home. For example, when we cook the beans, to not give you too much gassy, when you eat the beans, we put the indigo plant to boil the beans together. So it helps your digestion. The fresh plant, you throw them on top of your beans. It's a little colorful. When you rub the beans, you can see the dye of indigo on it. So when you heat it, and that one is very common in my own community in Nigeria. And my brother, he followed my father's step back home. So indigo use for, like, that is what I always repeat in the class. When I finish using the dye, the indigo ball, I travel them back home with me to give it to healing man, the medicine man here in New Mexico. Because after you use the plant, the medicine man can use it for other stuff to make a healing for people. And the leftover vat, the indigo liquid you dye with, in Nigeria, we call it osuku. Osuku arrow means the weak vat. When you put your finger, it barely take anything. That is what the medicine man use. When you walk inside of medicine man house, the first thing you see in their living room is a long bottle like that with indigo liquid on it. Weak vat. You say, what do they do with it? That is why nothing go waste in the dye vat. In Nigeria, we practice polygamy. Polygamy, people know what I'm trying to say, like marry a lot of women. So we have a lot of fights in between the children. People eat something like they shouldn't eat. As soon as they get to their stomach, it feel like their stomach was on fire. So when they rush them to the medicine man in Nigeria, the first thing the medicine man look for is the weak vat of indigo. He said, open your mouth, they put it in the little spoon, you swallow it in 10 minutes, you can see that young boy, anybody happen to, then he, it's like a drink, the plain yogurt,
Really?
all the bacteria, but
Oh, okay.
it's not easy to swallow because it was very sour, it's very bitter. That is why, and then the indigo piece of fabric, I learned that from my mother. Sometimes till now in Nigeria, when we have a little born baby, 5 months, 6-month-old baby, sometimes you hold the baby in the house, they are breathing, but they don't respond very well. Or they are breathing, the way they breathe, it's kind of very scary. I think they kind of have a little issue going on. But here, you take them to the doctor right away. My mother, she told me, you just put this on the fire, a little piece of indigo fabric. When it make a smoke, that smoke, you shake it, and then you put the face of the baby down. When the baby held the smoke, you can hear the baby was coughing alive really quick, like fast. So that is another medicine came from the indigo. You put the little piece of indigo on the fire, you keep the fire, then it make a smoke, and then you make sure it run through the nose of the little baby. And the baby started waking up so fast. So many things like that.
Yeah, I have never heard that before.
In our own environment. So, and you see, the plant was a savior in our community.
Yeah, it's so much more than just a dye. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Correct.
Well, you've got something going now because Pam Kicklighter, and I'm sure other people want to know, is how can they buy indigo seeds from Nigeria? Because she lives in Florida and she wants to raise it.
Oh, in Florida.
Yeah.
They tell people to send me email. I have some, but they are kind of running out. But I'm gonna get more.
Okay.
But
and we're going to post we'll post your email here in a minute so people can contact
they
you.
send me their email address. As soon as I get it, I'm gonna put them in the envelope and ship it to them. A lot of people might watch it today. I already sent it to a lot of people in New York, all over the places, who request for them. When I do this talk, I just put like 20 seed or 15 seed, they try them, and it grows. Yeah.
Well, you have a shout out here from Debbie Rhineflesh. She said, just a comment, I bought a beautiful t-shirt from you many years ago, and it's just as beautiful today as it was then. So.
Oh, hi, Debbie.
Your fan club's watching.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I hate to say this, but we need to stop because I know you're on a tight schedule and you got to get going.
They are waiting for me right now. They are waiting. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Tell them you're ours for the moment. You're ours for right now. Thank you so much for being on here because this has been wonderful. Just wonderful. Thank you for taking the time.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. If you want to learn more about Gasali and his work, you can go to his website, and it's arubaindigo.com. And like he said, if you're interested, go to his website and you can leave them an email about how to purchase some of the indigo seeds from Aruba. Yoruba, not Aruba, Yoruba. We want to thank everybody. We want to thank our sponsors, Contemporary Handweavers of Houston. What a great organization. Go to their website. They're always doing something. What a great organization. And we thank you so much for sponsoring Textiles and Tea, especially Gasali. What an entertaining guy. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you're interested in being a sponsor, we have lots more episodes coming up. We're getting ready to book through January and February. If you, your guild, or your business would like to sponsor an episode, please go to our website at weavespindye.org. You can give me a call at the office if you have questions, and we would appreciate your support. We appreciate all the support that we're getting. You can either donate or join, and that money goes toward the Fiber Trust. And the Fiber Trust is one way that these programs keep going, such as Textiles and Tea, Spinning and Weaving Week, and so much more. If you haven't seen the announcement, we are coming up on our 100th episode. I can't believe it. This started out as something to do during COVID. We had no idea how it was going to grow, and it's just taken off. And we really thank you all for doing that. So we're doing something to celebrate our 100th episode. We're doing 100 donations by our 100th episode. So we've got our little thermometer here. We're showing how we're getting toward those 100 donations of $100. If you would like to donate to keep this program going and our other programs that we offer, please donate at weavespindye.org. And let's see if we can get that thermometer full before November the 22nd, which will be our 100th program. If you've missed episodes, and Kevin Roberts was asking about this, all of these are on Facebook. You don't have to have an account to watch anything on Facebook. You can just go on there and go to, it's Handweavers Guild, HGA, on the Facebook page. They also are being uploaded to YouTube. I encourage you to subscribe, because when you do, you'll get a notice when a new episode's been uploaded to YouTube. They take a little while to get uploaded, but we're getting them there. We have Spinning and Weaving Week coming up soon. If you have not seen something about it yet, we have all kinds of things. It's on the website now. We've got advertising opportunities. We've got sponsorships, thread talks, great topics for thread talks, Marketplace Live. You can do some shopping before the holidays. And of course, our beloved fashion show. And we have something new this year. It's called Art Sparks. We're doing little mini classes, some great topics. Be sure you go to our website at weavespindye.org, and you can see what classes we'll be offering at Spinning and Weaving Week, October 3rd through the 9th. Thank you all for being here this week. We do appreciate it. It's been a delight talking with Gasali. We appreciate him taking time out from his very busy schedule to join us today. Next week, we have Kathy Roy. Excited about that. Have a great week and happy tea.